So we are the Digital Overlay Group. Once again, we conducted 10 interviews this week and have been in contact with our sponsor and mentor. And we actually have a representative from the AWG here this evening. Our How Might We question for this week is how might we best visually present our prototype to our beneficiaries?
So this week, our kind of theme is paint me a picture. What are we actually doing? And some of the big pains that we found throughout the week was overwhelming amounts of data. How can we sort through it? How can we depict it? How can we communicate it? Where are some false positives within that? Where are some crying wolf scenarios? How can we differentiate it? And what is the problem of slang? What one thing means in one area may change in a different area or even with a different age group. So how can we factor that in when we're presenting our data? Our gains have kind of stayed the same. We still want clear, concise information standing, want data verification, and we want a smooth transition from mission to mission, commander to commander, decision to decision.
To highlight the saying at the top of paint me a picture, we kind of wanted to show that what a picture to me looks like might kind of convey different information to someone else. So it's really about kind of catering, what am I trying to communicate to someone else? What is that picture going to look for me, but what is that picture going to convey to someone else? Then we're a team of interdisciplinary undergraduate students.
Yeah, so my name is Mark, engineering.
I'm Dalton, biology.
Elizabeth, nursing. Teresa, writing.
Anthony, CIS.
Nahom, engineering.
And so last week we had a representative from Babel Street here, and we were able to glean a lot of information from him, and we're able to really kind of, he was able to let us visualize their product and what it did. And so we had a lot of takeaways from that, which I think we'll touch on a little bit.
Okay, so our first hypothesis is, are there any other government organizations that present intelligence to decision makers? And that is confirmed. So looking into the CIA technology, we interviewed a professor, Dr. Walton. He talked about very similar technologies that the CIA uses.
Another hypothesis that we had is the communication network reliable? And that was confirmed through one of our interviews. And they talked about how long it takes to set up that network, though. And it can take anywhere from between 2 to 3 days to up to 2 weeks to set up a secure network in an area. And it requires consistent updates periodically.
And then thirdly, we have a hypothesis of does the military use data visualization within presenting intelligence? And it's denied. The military is partially capitalizing on the power of communicating intelligence. We're looking into some of the best practices that are available and seeing if we can help modify the wheel in the sense there.
So we're still working under the idea that our beneficiaries are our intelligence analysts, the private sector companies listed there, and then our commanding officers. How we decided that we would realize that our product was successful was that we would maintain current accuracy of intelligence of 90%, and then improve communications within the unit, and that would be having zero reinterpretation, zero results, meaning zero meetings for reinterpretation of results.
So one of our contacts this week actually has the fortune of being both in law enforcement and they used to be intelligence. So we use this as potentially a branch perspective for our solution, given that now both are kind of sharing this problem of how they exist in the digital space. As you can see, these priorities don't match up entirely. The police stuff is in blue, both is in black, and military in green.
Okay, so here's our customer workflow. It hasn't changed from last week, but we have added some red arrows, and that's what we aim to change with our MVP. That cross-collaboration and that easier representation and transmission of knowledge from person to person.
So kind of going off our first MVP from last week, which we kind of enhanced on our next slide, and we'll elaborate on the next slide. It's being able to kind of visually display different data sectors or intelligence about a certain geographic location, so that you can look on a circle and see different components of, what does an area's population look like, what does an area's social media activity look like. And then on the next slide, we'll kind of look into adding
So the first MVP is really more or less just a snapshot, or it's something that could exist in real time, but as it came up in our interviews, intelligence personnel also need to know how things change over time. This is a proposed idea where it would demonstrate either units, building, or servers traffic based on a 24-hour cycle. You would be able to see when it's doing what it should be, like a web server is receiving about normal traffic for its organizational size, or it's receiving too much for its size, to let you know, hey, maybe something suspicious is going on here at this time of day.
This is for looking ahead this week, there's a potential for a trip to Fort AP Hill, and also we're looking to pitch our possible solutions to our beneficiaries.
And to develop a prototype to see what our beneficiaries' thoughts are, kind of using like the MVP and using other presentational aspects to display the MVP to a beneficiary, and to meet with the representative from the AWG.
That was it for this week.
Thank you.
Feedback?
First off, I think it's a great update to your graphics. I can take a lot of time making it look like a cleaner presentation. Where did 99% come from, that target?
So from our interviews, we were told that, like, essentially, intelligence is only intelligence if it's 100% accurate. So we assumed, obviously, you can't be completely accurate all the time, but our goal is to be able to transmit data and let it be as close to 100% accurate as possible. So essentially, that's what we were told. That was my interpretation of it. I know you can't get 100% accurate, but it's not intelligence if it's wrong. So that's what we got.
Who told you that?
So we were interviewing some S2 officers. We were also interviewing retired colonels and like stuff like that, interviewees like that.
Bad intelligence is just good to me. See Team America, bad intelligence. Works for me, and I'm an operator. I'm the guy on the ground, so it works for me. I just need information. I'll make of it what I need to make of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So time sensitivity is more important to me than 100% intelligence.
Oh, that's right.
That's my perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, so oftentimes the S2s and G2s will hold information back that they have a pretty good idea, but they're afraid of telling you because it's not 100%. And so knowing that there's something out there, there's a chance of something out there, is better than not knowing. I think that's,
Exactly.
I mean, I saw that happen lots of times where, like, why didn't you say something? Well, we weren't sure. Well, now we got dead guys, now we're sure.
I'd rather somebody tell me they're not sure, but I know what's on target, or what I suspect might be on target. Me, on the other hand, I won't tell you what I don't see or what I don't suspect, because I'm on target. So if I'm on target, I tell you this is what's on target. But as far as good or bad, I want the good and the bad, and let me be the dude on the ground that says, hey, they were right or they were wrong, but I want to be prepared.
So one example is that if he reports it, the G2 guy doesn't want to get embarrassed by the general, so they won't report what he's reported until they confirm it. Well, if you only have one guy out there, you're not going to get a confirmation. And so you have good intel, it's just not confirmed. So you need to be able to describe that well, and your image probably could do that. The image you portrayed out there could probably.
So I'm gonna, what does mission achievement look like?
For us, from what we understand of like current like problems, is being able to convey when interviewing one of our contacts, is being able to convey intelligence in a visual sense that kind of allows whatever, if I'm an intelligence expert, whatever I'm trying to convey to someone who isn't an intelligence expert gets 100% conveyed, and they understand what's critical to them, because someone who needs to make a decision doesn't care.
How are you gonna measure that? I mean, that's my big piece. How do you measure that?
When somebody who has no real understanding of information technology or cyber can look at a map.
I get what you're getting at. How do you measure it, right? And you don't have to answer that right now. I just want you
to think about, right? I get what you're trying to go for, but are there smaller pieces or ways that you could break that down and to say, yes, we've achieved that, or no, we haven't? Chat with you more about that.
Hey, this is Christine. Sorry, can I buzz in for just a second? I've worked with Intel, and I have for the last 20 years. I think the question about measuring accuracy, first of all, you need to define what accuracy of intelligence means, which you're not going to be able to do. So the thing to think about here is outcomes, and you need to figure out with your sponsors and the people you're interviewing, how is intelligence related to the mission? And so I think you guys might want to zero in on understanding for a particular mission the type of intelligence needed, how it's used, and how the outside of the house can confirm the accuracy based on whether or not the outcome that they were shooting for could be achieved because of the intel that was relayed.
One of
Does that make sense?
One of our contacts, we kind of like to ask the question of, what's the best case scenario of intel use, or that was kind of made a huge critical impact on a mission. He, without hesitation, said Operation Neptune Spear, which was when they got bin Laden, and he said, and we were like, well, from people that don't understand intelligence analysis, he said they were able to use, let's say, internet access in the entire neighborhood of where he was at. Everybody's houses had internet access, but that one house that he was staying at was the only compound that didn't have internet access. And then you could use, like the satellite, for example, during kind of like cloudy conditions, still has sensors to look through clouds and be able to identify, let's say, one of the principles that he says is, what's the human pattern of life? In that compound, not many people were leaving it. Only one guy was walking around, so people didn't have official jobs that they left for. And I think we need to ask more people of what's the best case scenario, and then what's the worst case scenario of intel being bad.
So I think the worst case scenario you heard was that the wrong people get killed, or the right people don't get killed. Pardon the politics here, but the thing, ask if you can get or you can look online for what does a mission plan look like. A mission plan spells out what the mission is, what the objectives are, who's responsible for what, and what Intel does is work to help develop the mission plan, and they do a lot of what's called Intel prep of the battle space, and they also take a look at what are the questions that the commander doesn't know answers to, because that's how they define tasking. And so if you can get an idea from your next set of interviews for people who work with mission planning and support Intel functions for mission planning, I think you'll have a better idea of how to sort of make that mission achievement measurable with real data.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, that's our feedback time. Thank you very much. 1, 2, 3.